For years, residents living on or near Columbia Pike, a major east-west artery in South Arlington, have worked with the county government on a comprehensive plan to build a more walkable, bikeable, transit-oriented main street. So how are we doing? What does revitalization look like on the Pike? And who's making the decisions? Mary Curtius went to find out the answers to these questions and more.
Columbia Pike is more than 200 years old. Since the 1950s, however, it has served largely as a heavily traveled artery, speeding commuters between Washington, D.C. and the Northern Virginia suburbs.
So after many years of Columbia Pike really becoming auto-oriented, and the neighbors around here feeling like it didn't serve them as well as it might, there became interest in doing something about that, and that's really what led to the Columbia Pike initiative.
We saw other parts of Arlington that were getting new stores or new restaurants or new activities, and we weren't seeing that on the Pike. And we were
Inta Malice, a longtime resident, is one of many people living on or near the Pike who got involved in the long-range planning effort.
One of the things that we realized was that in order to be a walkable, friendly, pedestrian-oriented community, the traffic that was coming through here was going much too fast, and there was no protection for pedestrians. And so community members sat around and talked about what they would like to see. How wide should the sidewalks be? Should there be street trees? Parking, that was very important because that forms a buffer between pedestrians and traffic. How wide bike lanes should be, or how wide curbs should be, or how wide sidewalks. And when we actually finished that plan, we had a vision for the width of Columbia Pike that was down to the inches.
What you see here is, the future, which is a place that respects the pedestrian as much as the automobile.
We have a brand new development at Penrose Square that not only has a brand new grocery store, it's going to have a park right in front of it, a town square. It's going to have places where people can sit outdoors, cafes. It will have new restaurants. It will have new shops. So the idea of living where you work, where you shop, where you play is actually being realized.
And is part of this whole effort to make it a place we can get around and we don't have to get in and out of our car every single time to do it.
To make that happen, the county is building a transit network on Columbia Pike. Its centerpiece will be a streetcar line that will run along the Pike from Pentagon City to the Skyline area in Fairfax.
Here in the Columbia Pike, we'll run in traffic just the way the buses do, but we'll carry more people. We'll run more quietly because it's electric. So what it means is more people riding transit and less depending on cars. It's a way to keep down the excessive vehicular traffic that we don't want to be subject to.
Will the streetcar replace buses on Columbia Pike?
It will replace some buses, yes. There still will be bus service. Part of the way you have to make a transit system work, if you really want people to be able to live a transit-oriented lifestyle, you have to have overlaying networks. And, you have to be able to make connections and get different places. And in the form of our streetcar, for instance, it'll run Columbia Pike to Pentagon City, and you'll be able to connect there. It'll be able to get you out to a node of density in the Skyline area in the other direction. We have Metrobus, which serves a regional bus purpose. We have ArtBus, which serves Arlington, another thing we've introduced here to increase the connectivity. And you'll have the streetcar. And with those interconnections, you'll be able to get around without having a car 7 days a week.
And when can residents reasonably expect to take their first streetcar ride down Columbia Pike?
Well, I think we're still aiming for somewhere in the 2016, 2017 timeframe.
There's something called super stops that are going in. What is a super stop?
Yeah, well, some of these bus stops have hundreds of people every day getting on and off the bus. And so what we're trying to do is put in a really first-class stop that will serve buses, and when streetcar comes, will serve streetcars.
How expensive is it to build a streetcar line, and how are we going to pay for it?
Well, streetcar is running roughly $25 to $50 million a mile in projects around the country. And of course, to you and me, that's obviously a lot of money. But in terms of transportation infrastructure, that's actually not a lot of money. Transportation infrastructure is enormously expensive. The things we do for cars, like an intersection on a highway, an interchange, or even changing a ramp, cost tens of millions of dollars routinely. The streetcar is one of the most cost-effective investments that you can make in transportation. It will add to the value of the real estate right along the corridor, and that means that it will yield a higher tax return. And so it won't take very long for an investment like this to pay for itself in the very narrow terms of of government revenues. Of course, there are benefits that don't that go beyond that. We don't necessarily get a dollar return for the cleaner air we're going to breathe and that kind of thing. But we will see a dollar return on the real estate immediately adjacent to the corridor that should very quickly pay for the investment.
With property values rising on the Pike, pressure is mounting on historic and affordable housing. County government is working with residents to preserve the Pike's past and its future as a diverse community.
Our goal, and it's a very ambitious goal, and we hope that we can achieve it, is that we maintain the same level of affordability on Columbia Pike that we have today into the future. So how do we preserve affordable housing? How do we preserve historic resources? How do we create new housing for new neighbors to come here? And the thing is that it's not easy. We're looking for new tools that will help us finance either the preservation of affordable housing or the preservation of historic properties.
So development, for instance, supports affordable housing because a portion of what what comes out of a new development, as developers are granted the right to build at higher densities, is a contribution to housing, which they can make either directly in a building or by providing funds that we then use through our program, our Affordable Housing Investment Fund, and we put in our own money every year in the budget. So we're using a variety of different tools to ensure that in the future there still will be an ample supply of housing affordable to people of low and moderate income.
We are at a point in the study now where we know a lot about the housing, about the economics of redevelopment on Columbia Pike. So we have all the pieces. We've looked at tools, and now is the time that all these pieces are going to come together. And we'll see if we have all the pieces that we need to make this happen, whether we have to adjust our goals or whether we can stand firm on our goals and just make sure that we have the right tools in place.
If you want to follow the development of Columbia Pike or get involved, go to columbiapikeva.us.